What is your deepest fear? The first time I hear that question, my head snaps up. I'm on a plane from DC to Seattle to visit my sister Robin, and I'm reading all that work stuff you never have time to read in the office because it's so boring. So I'm listening to the in-flight movie, Coach Carter, in the background as a distraction. But as soon as I hear that question, something inside of me says, pay attention. So I put away the work, not a hard decision, and I watched that movie in earnest. Now, Coach Carter is about a group of insolent inner city youth who are on a basketball team, and they are transformed into a self-respecting winning team. Coach Carter is played by Samuel Jackson, and he asks his players over and over, what is your deepest fear? And finally, towards the end of the movie, one of the kids says, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. Well, this really strikes me. I mean, I think this is really profound, right? So I'm like, this means something to me. So, you know, I've learned to pay attention to that sort of internal knowing thing. I mean, I look for meaning in anything in terms of coincidences or serendipity or twists of fate. I'm looking for the meaning. And it started when I was 18. I was hitchhiking through Europe, and we stop, and I have this really strong urge to get out of the vehicle, but I didn't do it. And an hour later, I'm lying on the side of the road paralyzed. So since then, I pay a lot of attention to that inner knowing without knowing thing. And my sister, she's a big believer in all this woo-woo stuff herself. And so as soon as I get to Seattle, I tell her all about the quote. And as soon as we get to her house, I have to get online. And I look for it, Coach Carter quotes. And I find it. And I print it out, and I read it to her. And she says, you know, that really is beautiful. In fact, it goes against everything that we were told as children. You know that part about your playing small does not serve the world? And I know exactly what she means. I mean, we were raised in the Northeast in a WASPy household, and we were told, you know, work hard, keep your head down, and be modest. Well, the next day, we go off to drive through the Cascade Mountains east to a little town called Cleella, because it's part of our new agey thing. We go see the Shar and Dar, the energy healing sisters. You know, sisters going to see sisters. There's got to be magic there. And they're very interesting sisters. They're in their 50s, and Dar's kind of heavy-set. She's a brunette. She's very chatty and talkative. Dar, on the other hand, is taller, slender, severely bleached blonde hair with matching bangs. And she doesn't say very much. So I climb on their table, fully clothed. I lie on my back. I got Shar on one side, Dar on the other side, and they start working on me. Well, they take their fingers and they draw circles around this plastic disc that's attached to their waist that contains copper. And they wave their hands in my energy field. And Dar is like, oh, her harmonic connection is really out of whack. And Dar says, yeah, and her polarities are out of balance too. Do you feel those blockages? So they start picking the blockages out of my energy field, right? And Dar's like, oh, this is disgusting. Shar's like, this is so nasty. Well then, Dar says, put your arm out straight. And then she puts her hand on my heart, and she pushes down on my arm, and she says, is that sore? Yeah. And she works in my energy field again, and then she pushes down on my arm again. She says, is it sore now? No. So they do this all over my body. And at the end, Shar says, all right, Dar, you go to her head, I'll go to her feet, and we'll align her astral and physical bodies. I don't understand it. It sounds crazy, but it works. I mean, at the end of that session, I am blissed out. My face is flushed. My muscles are loose. I'm ready for a serious nap. So I get off the table, and Shar leaves the room, and she comes back a few minutes later, and she says, I was guided to give this to you. And she hands me a lavender piece of paper. And I look at that paper, and I go, whoa, Robin, It's the quote. It's the quote I told you about yesterday. She's like, no way. And she reads it and she's like, wow. I mean, what are the chances that this quote you told me about yesterday is be handed to you by somebody else? So I memorized it, right? Because now I know this is significant for me. And it's by Marianne Williamson, and it goes like this. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, talented, fabulous, beautiful? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightening about shrinking so others will not feel insecure around you. You were born to make manifest the glory of God within you. It is not just in you. It is in everyone. And as you let your light shine, you unconsciously give permission to others to do the same. And as you are liberated from your peers, your presence automatically liberates others. Now, I don't know what Marianne Williamson means by God, but I read this quote to myself every day because I was raised to be modest, and I thought that meant I had to stay small. That quote shifted me into being more courageous, into believing in myself, into being my biggest self. So now, if someone says to me I'm brilliant or beautiful, I say, I know. My deepest fear now is whether I'll be able to do everything I am meant to do in this lifetime to fulfill my destiny.